How long will it take to see results with the Anat Baniel Method? We've been getting a lot of questions from parents just like yourself about our series of videos all about the Anat Baniel Method, and this question keeps popping up again and again. How long will it take to see results with my child doing the Anat Baniel Method? To answer this question, I've got Phoebe McRae with me. She's an Anat Baniel Method practitioner in Portland, Oregon. So what are your thoughts, Phoebe?
I know everybody wants to know exactly how long it's going to be before we see results. I can tell you that change and learning can be instantaneous. The amazing thing about the brain is that it has the capacity to make new connections which result in changes instantaneously. One of the problems is that our brains, depending on how old we are, already have some patterns and some connections already made, and those connections are stronger than the new connections. The new connections need more support and strengthening through variation and awareness so that they get stronger than the existing patterns. Your capacity to see a change is actually all up to you as a parent or caregiver.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with two sort of separate questions within the one question. Is one, how long will it take for the child to change, which can actually happen quite instantaneous? And the other question is, how long will it take for the parent or the outside world to see that internal change that will happen with the child?
We also have to wonder, like, what is a change? When you have a child who has some spasticity or some physicality that looks like it needs an upgrade, we're looking for a change in that sphere, but actually there can be changes in all sorts of other spheres, like emotional spheres or cognitive thinking spheres. And those ones are harder to see the change and harder to pinpoint that that actually was something new that was created in the moment when we slowed down or we started to pay more attention or we took the pressure off by moving gently and slowly.
That's probably the biggest change that I see is a calming down of the nervous system, which what does that look like to an outsider? It's a very internal experience. Parents might see their child a little bit calmer, more resilient, better eye contact. They might sleep better. But most parents are looking for those really big physical milestone changes, even though a calming down of the nervous system will allow the child's brain to be able to learn those larger milestone movements that much better. You really do have to start with those small internal changes first.
One of the ways that you can notice if your child is making changes is to make sure that your own nervous system is upgraded in such a way that you have the capacity to notice the changes.
Yeah, like refining your own observation skills of noticing those nervous system changes in your child.
One of the funny things about when a child makes a big change is that it looks so obvious that you can almost not even remember if they could do that thing before. I have a client who I saw for a few lessons, and after the third lesson, this child started doing all sorts of new things, and the activities that she was doing were more detailed and had different components than what she had done before. And it wasn't until the parent saw a photo that she had taken of her child doing these new activities that she noticed that the child was using her right hand instead of her left hand to do the activity. And this, I guess it just looked so normal for the parent that they didn't even notice that this was such a huge difference. And it was funny that the parent hadn't even noticed until they took a photo of their child that they were using their right hand to do writing versus the left hand to do writing. The connections had been made in such a way that the child changed the way that they used their hands in a natural and unguarded way. And so it just looked normal. It looked easy, it looked light, it looked fun, and the parent didn't even notice.
I love it. It's like a smooth transition into the new change. So smooth that even the parent doesn't notice. And that's definitely what I've experienced as a parent, is because you're with your child every single day, you're not noticing these small incremental changes in their better sleep pattern, their better eye contact, their little bit more vocalization. And all of these tiny little changes start to snowball into bigger and bigger and bigger changes until you go back to your Anat Baniel Method practitioner the next month and they're like, oh my goodness, look at how much your child has changed. changed and you don't realize it because you were just observing in that smooth transition of those small changes. And sometimes it takes an outsider's point of view to make the parent notice how much your child really has changed.
As we said before, the way a change happens is that the brain is being fed more and more sensory information. So through touch, through hearing, through sight, through taste, through proprioception. And all of that information, the brain takes in and makes sense of that information. So it can take a little while for the brain to make sense of those pieces of information that's coming in through the senses, to put together a new function or put together a new understanding of themselves in gravity.
I like to think of those larger milestones as really super complex puzzles, these giant pictures of what does sitting look like, what does standing look like, what does walking look like. And they're like million-piece puzzles. And as Anat Baniel Method practitioners, we're inputting this quality sensory information as those tiny little puzzle pieces, making the connection for their brain to see this larger picture of that bigger puzzle. And we're infilling these separate little puzzle pieces until your child's brain is able to make the connections and see that larger picture. So you'll see like little changes with each little puzzle piece, but that larger change can happen when there's enough of those tiny little puzzle pieces or little changes to make those big leaps.
You can support your child in gathering all those building blocks from sensory information by slowing down, by approaching things gently, and introducing variation to your child.
And if you're looking for extra support in between seeing an Anat Baniel Method practitioner in person to help your child fill in those puzzle pieces, those missing gaps of sensory information, both Phoebe and I are available for online support through private Zoom calls, as well as you can check out my online courses down below.
So if you're wondering how soon it's going to be before you start seeing results using the Anat Baniel Method.
Each child is just so unique, so it really depends on each unique child's situation, but know that every brain has the possibility to be able to change with quality information. And it also depends on your ability to recognize change.